Hi, welcome back. This is Kate and my husband Steve, who has again graciously offered to be a patient. Um, Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your lats, latissimus dorsi. The lats have a lot of good function and potentially a lot of bad function, especially in terms of posture. For many of us, we sit at a desk, my husband guilty of that, as well as myself, where we are rounded at the shoulders and a little bit kyphotic, perhaps a forward head. While if your lats are tight, it is one of the culprits that is maintaining that position for you. Your lats, they start at the spinous process of the T-spine, as well as the inferior angle of the scap and a lot of the lumbar fascia. And it inserts in the groove in the front of your humerus. The thoracodorsal nerve innervates it so that it can produce the movements of adduction, extension, IR, and also plays a role in trunk rotation as well. The antagonists of the lats are the trap and the delt. So in many treatments, you don't only want to focus on the agonist, you also want to focus on the antagonist, making that relationship work a little bit smoother as well, rather than just treating one side. Kind of like if he had pathology on the left side, you'd also want to treat it on the right so that, maybe maintenance and prevention, treatment, so there's a balance. Okay, so I'm going to focus on 3 tools today, and he's already nice and lubed up with the emollient that I prefer to use. It's Hot Grips emollient, has shea butter, a little bit of beeswax. You can also use, if you want something maybe a little less creamy, less thick, there is the Hydro and Hydro Plus water-based emollient that Hot Grips now has as well. So I very much encourage you to check that out on their website. There are a couple different ways you can go about this. Now with the bar, you get a lot of broad coverage, and it's great for using when you're doing very big biological movements along different planes. The other tools, such as one of the larger multis or the tongue depressor, are good for getting into smaller areas like the intercostals or the spinal joints, or even some of the grooves you can find where the supraspinatus lies and hides underneath the delt and the traps. So for me, I'm going to start with right along the spine. Just a very gentle stroke first. Now, if this was a patient I maybe had not seen before and this was my first treatment, I may not go for something so finite, so targeting. I might use the scanner to go over it first, but my husband is no stranger to shoulder pain, and we've actually done some of this before. So going along the joints of the T-spine, rhomboids, of course, come in there as well, mid-trap, and then you have your lats. So extending all the way up the spine to where the traps come in. Of course, as you've learned before on my other videos, the more perpendicular, the more aggressive the treatment. You can see he is already lighting up. We have been working on this area for quite some time with improvement, which is nice. Moving on to the delt, using the multi-tool. You can use the single bevel or the double bevel edge. Right now I'm going to start with the single. Be careful of the bony prominences in the joints because it's very uncomfortable for the patient if you're banging on the bone, and that's not really the point of what we do. Now I can go from trap all the way down to delt. I can focus right on mid-delt with the curve going kind of towards the anterior and posterior portions of the shoulder, going along bicep, which also kind of plays a role in shoulder function, of course. To make it a little bit more intense, what I can have him do is go ahead and you're going to abduct the arm and come back down. So as he abducts, I can go over it, or as he comes down during eccentric, I can come over it as well. And just after a few strokes, you can see he starts to get a little bit red. Again, gauge the intensity of your treatment on your patient. A little bit more intense and targeting really more of the lats than either the antagonist or the accessory muscles. Go ahead and reach over as if you're going to stretch your lat. So I can have him in almost a stretched position, static, and I can feel the crunchies. How about you?
Yep.
And I get right under that inferior angle where you have one of the origins of the lats, and they come over here. I like the face he's making if you can't see. Take a rest. Never doing so much that you actually cause too much inflammation. It's that balance that we go for, that reset button, as I've discussed in other videos. Something that's not really fun for newbies, but I definitely like doing with him because he's a little bit more experienced with this. Go ahead and reach over, and then come back down and come up, and come back down and come up. If I really want to get into it, I'll go over one more time. You're going to reach over and twist, and then come back towards me and elbow down. So, different ways whether you're trying to inhibit or facilitate a muscle, different ways of treatment, but for now we'll just be very general. So go ahead and come up and twist. Good, and then come back down. Good, and come up and twist and come back down. So you can see I'm going to stop because it's a little warm in this room too, but how do you feel?
Sore.
Sore. Try to stretch. Do you feel like you have a little bit more range of motion?
Yeah, I do actually. A lot more.
And that was 6 minutes, 5 minutes. So just a little tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it on what you can do to help loosen up those lats. The mermaid pose is great for afterwards because, again, you do want to stretch to get the optimal benefits. And then, of course, if you have time, I always recommend some sort of strengthening. It can just be isometric to help that kinetic chain work more, to function a little bit better. Or you can, go off to the gym if that was on our agenda today, but it's not. So if you have any questions, please never hesitate to ask. I promise that I'll be putting more videos on here for you guys, just little examples of how to address some things that might cause you a little bit of grief every day. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.